Hey everybody, Dave, the WA Firephone local job recruiter here. Today we're talking about the two inquired about jobs mostly every day. I just get them all the time. Can I please be a trade assistant? And can I please be a dump truck driver? Let's go with dump truck driving. So there's two styles. There's rigid, which is a rigid vehicle. And then there's moxie or articulated. So the colloquial term in WA mining is moxie. There's two different tickets. So if you've got experience in a Cat 740, that's a moxie. And if you want to apply to be a dump truck operator, my lingo, it's dump truck versus articulated moxie. I'm sorry, they're not the same thing. There's actually two different RII codes, and if you've done a bit of homework, and that's a nationally recognised ticket. They're not the same. So if you apply for that job with that ticket, it's not a match. You can actually go backwards. In other words, you can have a rigid haul truck ticket and you are likely to be picked up and accepted on a moxie job. The reason for that is that these things are physically bigger and you've got really good spatial awareness and safety factors. They are just two different beasts altogether. This thing turns a whole lot easier. This thing is rigid like your car, doesn't have a pivot in the middle. Two different things. So, in my opinion, you can do what you like. I think it's a job that's kind of driving around at 30-40 k's an hour for 12 hours a day. I suggest if you really want to do it, take your car to the shops at 30 k's an hour and turn around and come back to your house and then turn around and go to the shops at 30 k's an hour and do that as much as you can. That's welcome to the world of dump truck and moxie operating, plus all the safety, plus all the whistles, plus all the horns, plus all the dirt. Yeah. Okay, so say you do want to do that. These are the tickets that I suggest you should also get. To get on a mine site in WA, 95% of the time, you need a white card. It shows that you've been trained to read the signs back in Perth on how and when to put your hat on. Now, I don't have time to edit the videos with little pictures anymore. I can't be bothered. I do this in my own time, so learn what a white card is, get one. They're about $70 in Perth. I think you can do them online, or you can go to a class. My stepdaughter did it at one stage, and she had to film herself putting on a vest and wearing a hat, so I had to get a hat and a vest for her. Then you got to wait for the ticket. I myself would go to a class and sit in the class for a little bit more and get printed out a ticket and wait for my plastic card in the mail. Then, when I got my card, I would sign the back of it. And then I'd take a photo of it, and with naming conventions, we call them in a job like mine. If my name is Bob Jones, I'd call it Bob _ Jones _ WC. Everybody knows what a WC is. It's a white card. So, you want to be a dump truck driver, you should also have an Australian issued driver's license. A lot of the time, to get from the camp to your dump truck, maybe you will have to drive the LV, the light vehicle. So you should definitely have an Australian DL. What that is permission to drive out on the regular roads, and sometimes on mine sites, you have to drive out on a public road to get to your dump truck. So, I'd have one of those for sure. If you're really smart, you'd have a HR, heavy rigid truck license. That shows you've been trained and safe to drive a great big whacking road registered truck. Now that's not really road registered. If you got lucky and you got accepted on the site that just needed a C-class license, that's pretty lucky. I got a HRB, which is a HRB license, and that means it's a manual. So I can drive a manual truck. Happy days. I'd get one of those for sure. So after that, mine sites love safety. You might not need it, but if you wanted a dump truck job, I'd also get a first aid. These things need to be refreshed frequently, as in once a year, once every 2 years. Different sites have different requirements, but I'd get a first aid. There's cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, there's basic life support, and there's administer first aid. They're the three little segments inside a first aid certificate. Mine was about $120, I think, and I was in a class. I was pumping on the dummy, and I got my first aid certificate. Super important, because you'd want to be able to save a life of your co-worker, and you'd want your life to be saved if there was some trouble. Not really super relevant to these, but I also like to see a first fire attack. First fire attack. That shows that you've been trained to use a fire extinguisher, basically. Know the right colour for the right kind of fire, all that type of thing. Super good to have. It actually supports your application. The more good stuff you have on top of a rigid haul truck ticket or an articulated haul truck ticket, the more chance you're going to be picked up. Getting up off the ground, I think it's a metre and 20 centimetres, is called working at a height. In my lingo, it's a W at, and if you do that sign, WAH, working at heights. Because if you want to get up on a dump truck that's the size of a 3-story building, you're kind of getting up high. That'd be cool, because then you have been trained to use 3 points of contact as you get up the ladder onto your truck. Getting in a small confined space that is 60 or 70 centimetres away from a fresh air source and has only one exit where the air can go in and out, that's called getting in a confined space. So you need a confined spaces ticket. I would suggest that it supports your application. So confined spaces. Confined spaces. It just helps. Every little bit of training that shows that you are safe and you will be a good boy or a good girl is going to help you. They're mega important. Like mine superintendents, electricians, they go through those courses all the time. It's part of it. You just got to do it. More training equals more safe. Mine sites love to CYA cover their ass. So you've been trained to work at a height, work in a confined space, put out a fire, save someone's life. You're legal to drive on the road, and you've been trained so you know when and where to read the signs, to put your hat on and wear your boots. The other nice one is gas testing atmospheres. We call it GTA. GTA, gas testing atmospheres. Mine sites love it. I've gas tested an atmosphere a few times. If you actually look up, there's some deaths in Australia probably 20 years ago. A couple of workers on the side of the road in the suburbs got in an area there was noxious gases. The first person went in and collapsed. So the second person went in to save them. They didn't test the atmosphere of gas in the confined space, and that person went in and collapsed as well. The third person at the top saw these dead bodies down there, and they decided not to go into the confined space, so they tested the gas in the atmosphere. Pretty handy. They're the basics. Even if you want that or that, I would suggest getting them.